Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update on coronavirus and other news of the day. As you can tell, we're trying something a little different today. And we'll see how it goes. But what this means is I need to look at a different screen for your questions. So if you have questions, feel free to bring them, drop them in the comments, and I'll catch them. And I'll get through the numbers first, and then we'll take questions, and then we'll talk about some other news. The news today, again, not great on a couple different fronts. First of all, 13,000 more tests, a little more than 13,000 tests today. So when you have that many tests, you expect your positive rate to go down. Unfortunately, our positive rate went up. It is now 6.36%, which is still not terrible. However, you want it to be basically what public health people will say. If it's under 10, you are mitigating. But if it's under 3, then you're suppressing, right? So we don't have this thing suppressed right now. Because yesterday we were at 5.9, today we're at 6.3. 880 new cases today. Yesterday we had 900, so that's down a little bit. Our testing was down slightly. So our tests go down. Our tests went down by a couple hundred. Our positive results went down by only 20, which means our positive percentage went up, which is not great. Another thing that's not great is we now have 8,400 active cases, a little more than 8,400 actually. That is that's the highest it's ever been. That's about 200 more than yesterday. Again, those are cases that have been diagnosed in the past 30 days and are still considered by the state to be active and infectious. Again, that's a number that you'd want to see going down every day. If we were really on the other end of this, if we were on the down slope, you'd see fewer and fewer active cases every day until you're down to almost zero. Obviously, today we are more than that. That number was 6,300 about a month and a half ago. Then it went all the way down to 4,800 a couple weeks ago. And now we're back up to 8,400, which is really going the wrong direction. I feel like we made progress through the month of like May and into June, and now we've kind of given up that progress, which is unfortunate. Okay. 2 fatalities today. One in Milwaukee County, one in Brown County. That brings the death toll to 833. So we haven't yet. The cases and the spread has been going up, has been high on the high side and going up and setting records for basically the last 2 weeks. Right. July 4th, we had our record was our first big record setting day with 738 cases, and we set a bunch of records since then. So what you'd expect to see is 2 or 3 weeks after the number of cases go up, you see more people in the hospital, and then a week or 2 after that, you see more death. So we're not at the death point yet, but we are now. We might be. I'm a little worried that we are at that place of the increased hospitalizations. Not long ago, earlier this week, we had barely over 200 people in the hospital. Today we have 331. That is 23 more than yesterday. Now, we're still not, and it's also 53 more than a week ago. More than a week, 7 days ago today, last Friday. Again, 331 people in the hospital for coronavirus infection does not endanger the hospital system. We're not at that point yet where ICUs, intensive care units, are overburdened or unable to care for people. We're not there yet. We got a ways to go before we get there. So it's not. We're not going to panic yet about hospital capacity. However, it's notable that this 23 more inpatients in one day is the highest increase we've seen in some time. And that it's happening almost exactly 2 weeks after the number of cases started to go up tells us that, those two things are related. And it makes me continue to worry that 2 weeks from now, we'll be seeing 10, 12, 15, 20 deaths every day. So again, I hope that's not the case. I hope that we know that these cases that we're seeing, these big increases in cases, are kind of concentrated in the 20s and 30s. So I'm hoping that those cases that we're finding now are more resilient, less vulnerable, and maybe we won't see that crush of deaths. But just that's what I'm fearing. That's what I'm kind of preparing for. Okay. Thank you, Margie. Kathy, no, you're not the only person who thinks we should be shut down again. I know, I'm pretty sure the governor and lieutenant governor both think we should be shut down again, but they know that it's legally they can't do that. I know lots of people who think we should shut down. So I think it's kind of, to be honest with you, it's kind of on us to shut ourselves down and to wear our masks and to stay home if we can. Okay. Let's talk about locations. 247 new cases in Milwaukee County today, 8.3%. As usual, Milwaukee is the most. Several other locations have double-digit case increases, but are okay on positive test rate. Okay, Brown County, 14 new cases, but only 2% test positive. Columbia County, 10 cases. Dane County, 75 new cases. Dodge County, 16 new cases. Jefferson County, 12. Marathon County, Marathon County is a little high. Outagamie County, 22 new cases. Rock County, 21. Washington County, 16. Those are all sort of double-digit case increases, but their percent of positive rate is below that of the state, which is, as I mentioned before, 6.3. A couple other spots to keep an eye on, though. Jefferson County, 12 new cases. They're at 6.4% positive test. Kenosha County, 31 new cases. They're at 14%. La Crosse County, 18 new cases at 17.5%. Marathon County, 17 cases, about 9.5%. Ozaukee County, 15 cases, 8.5%. Racine County, 56 cases, 11.8%. Sheboygan County keeps popping up on this list, which I don't like. 28 new cases up in Sheboygan County, 18.3% positives. Walworth County, 32 new cases, 12.8% positive. So again, that's a lot of numbers I just threw at you. If you go to Madison365.org, the main story on the front page right now is basically all this that I'm telling you. So you can look at that and take a bit more time to kind of sort through those numbers. Talked about hospitalizations. Racial disparity continues to be an issue, although it's improving slightly, but still very bad. Latino people make up 7% of the state's population, but 27% of the total cases. Even just today's cases, 19%. Like basically 1 out of 5 of those 880 new cases today are Latino. That's just crazy. 16% of all cases are Black. Black people, only 6% of the population of the state. 23.5% of the deaths are Black. Right now we are at 77% have recovered. That was 80% a couple weeks ago. We're now the death rate, however, the case fatality rate has fallen to 2.1%, which is good. What that means is it doesn't necessarily mean fewer people are dying from it. It just means that we are finding and identifying, confirming more cases that are not fatal. So that number will continue to go down as we continue to find more cases that are not fatal. I would expect that, based on other things I've read from other countries and other epidemiological studies, that it's going to keep going down until it gets to about 0.5%, probably, which is still a lot of people, right? Because there's a reasonable chance that we've found 40,000 cases so far in Wisconsin. it's reasonable to think there are between 100 and 250,000 cases that we've already had, that have, most of which have recovered, obviously. Just because we weren't testing very much in the beginning. But still, 0.5% of 200,000 people is a lot of people. So we don't, rate of transmission is getting better. 1.09. We peaked at 1.35, I believe it was, when we were the top number one fastest transmission in the country. Today, we're at 1.09. We're kind of right in the middle of all the states. There are only, I got to take a look at this again. I think there's only 5 states that are actually under 1 right now. And again, for those who don't know or don't remember, the rate of transmission is the average number of people that are infected by each infected person. So if you're more than 1, it's going to continue to spread. Although if you're just barely over 1, like we are now, 1.09, it'll spread. It'll continue to spread, but it'll spread more slowly than if we were at 1.3, which we were earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 states plus the District of Columbia are below 1. Every other state is above 1. Montana is the highest at 1.35. Wisconsin right in the middle, 1.09. That's very good. That's descriptive. It's not predictive necessarily. That's based on the data for the last 5 days or so. It's indicating that our spread is slowing. It's still spreading, but it's a little slower than it was. So that's good. Okay, those are the numbers. Let me get some questions here. The governor, Kathy, the did attempt to go through the legislature. They did try to work something out. It didn't go anywhere. The Republicans in the legislature just were not interested. I do not have any insight on the federal unemployment. I know the Democrats in Congress did pass some legislation. I'm not sure if the $600 unemployment is part of that or not. I know there's a lot of pressure to continue that. I don't think the Senate is going to go for it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there will be. I feel like there's going to. Something is going to be extended. I think they're going to have to. I don't know what that is. I will also mention that the Supreme Court is going to change. The Wisconsin Supreme Court will change in a couple weeks. Brian Hagedorn is off. Joe Karofsky is on. I'm sorry, not Brian Hagedorn. Daniel Kelly was a vote against the administration. Joe Karofsky will probably be a vote for the administration. So I would not be shocked. I'd be a little surprised if they tried again, but I wouldn't be shocked if the administration tries to issue another order of some kind in August. Let's take it easy on each other in the comments, guys. We're just trying to gather information. We're just trying to be informed. We don't necessarily need a debate right now. Okay. A few other news items. A couple other news items related to coronavirus. Madison Metro School District, you may have heard, will start the year all virtual. They've been doing virtual learning since mid-March, through the end of the school year, and they'll continue that, and they will reassess every quarter. So it's possible if things go well and our numbers go down, that they would begin in-person instruction around November 3rd. So we will see what happens there. It sounds like they're going to add additional training for teachers. They're going to try to make the virtual learning a little bit better than it was in the spring. In the spring, it was really thrown together because it was kind of sudden. They've had more time to plan for it. I know they're still trying to get internet access to all the kids. Also, they're going to continue to provide meals for students, just as they have been since March, and just as they normally do every summer. As you are probably aware, there's a Dane County mask ordinance. City of Milwaukee also has a mask ordinance right now. And in Dane County, there was a bit of a thing about a coffee shop in Middleton where they put up a sign saying this is a mask-free zone. You have to take your mask off to get in here. They were not receptive to education efforts. And so the Dane County, Public Health Madison-Dane County now has a sign that they're going to require businesses to hang up. And that sign says, masks required indoors. So all businesses will be required to post signage saying masks are required. I don't know what's going to happen if they don't. The order has fines for people who refuse to wear masks. I'm not sure if it has fines for businesses that refuse to enforce the order, basically. Tina, any plan for childcare? I haven't seen a plan for childcare. If you go to Madison365.org, we have I took the press release and just doctored it up a little bit. So everything that the Madison Metro School District announced is on our website right now, Madison365.org. I didn't see anything in there about childcare. I'm sure Public Health Madison-Dane County will have some guidelines. I don't think they've said anything yet, really. I know, and that's a good question. I should ask them if childcare guidance has changed at all. They were saying, groups of 10 or fewer kids. Now, I will say there was the whole thing this whole time has been that kids don't get this disease, and if they do, it's not dangerous, and they don't pass it along. We're seeing that a lot of these, a lot of the increase has been in the people in their 20s, right? But we're also starting to see the last few days, we're seeing this spread out as the people in the 20s are going home and spreading it to their moms and their kids, right? So right now, of the 40,000 cases that we've seen so far, 12% are school-age kids. Or I guess are kids. Some are even younger than school age. And that's what school's been out. There's been no school for 4 months, and still we have 12% of our cases are kids. And that's a childcare problem, and that's a school problem. Thank you, Max, for sharing that. Beth, restaurants. Yes, your mask is required in a restaurant when you're ordering, when you go into the restaurant and sit, and when you're ordering and stuff like that, you can take it off to eat, obviously. You have to. But you're also seated only with your household. You can't go to restaurants with your friends. You got to go to restaurants only with members of your household. The seating is supposed to be all spread out. They're at 25% capacity. And but yes, while you're in the restaurant and not eating, masks are required. Yes, that's a good question. Okay, couple of non-COVID things. Great story this morning from Dave Dahmer, our editor, about Pastor Alex G. You might know he's been around for a long time. He's a founder of Fountain of Life Church. 40 years ago now. And he wrote an essay called Justified Anger back in 2013 that kind of launched him into the mainstream as a thought leader on racial justice issues. He just has a documentary out right now. He teaches a class, this Justified Anger class, basically teaches white people about Black history and helping some of us become better allies, And he was doing something like that via Zoom the other day, about a week ago now, I guess. And he was Zoom bombed by some racists, and there was all sorts of racial slurs and abusive language, and he was very angry about that, but he also and didn't want to talk about it at first, and finally he did talk with Dave about it, and Dave wrote a very good story, and it's on the site right now, basically saying I've been called that before, is what Alex G is saying, that I've heard people use those racial slurs before, but what really gets me mad is the more covert racism, where people who say they're your friend, say they're your ally, but don't really stand up when it matters. So it's a really interesting story. I would commend that to you, definitely. give that a shot. Take a few minutes and give that a read when you can. Forward Madison Football Club, our local soccer team, just announced its full schedule today. It's scaled back from. It was originally going to be 20 games. A normal season is like 40 something, like 38 games. They had announced a season of 20 games. Now it's actually only going to be 16. Home games are going to be at Hart Park in Wauwatosa. Tickets are going to go on sale next week. The first game is at North Texas, which is they're the defending champions of the league, and then we'll be home to Greenville Triumph, which they're the runner-up of the league. So tough couple games to start out. But if you go to Madison365.org right now, we've got the full schedule there. FA Cup semifinals this weekend: Arsenal versus Man City on Saturday, Chelsea versus Manchester United on Sunday. I expect Manchester United to rest some players because for them, their priority is going to be trying to secure that fourth spot in the league in the English Premier League to make it to get into the Champions League for next year. I think that would be the priority, so they may rest some guys. Chelsea will be without N'Golo Kante. He's still out with a hamstring. And so that Sunday match will be very intriguing. I think you have to feel like Chelsea and Man City are going to end up in the final of this thing. Man City might win themselves a double. They've already got the League Cup, and they're not going to. Liverpool won the league. Man City has won the League Cup, but I think Man City has a very good chance of winning a double, and then tearing through the Champions League next year. Now that they're actually in it. There was a question of whether they'd be in it next year due to some financial chicanery. They were banned. Their ban was overturned recently, so they're good to go. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Madison365.org/Black Enterprise Fund if you want to support the work. That's the donations to that fund get split up between us and 4 other Black-led nonprofits. If you go to that page, you can read all about those nonprofits. Subscribe to the podcast. It's only 10 minutes to get your morning update every day. This morning we actually spoke with Dave Dahmer, who wrote that Alex G story. Kathy, yeah, I did mention the $600 benefit. I just don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard anything that the federal government is actually going to do that. I think the Democratic Congress has passed a few things that the Senate is not going to take up. So I think they're going to have to do something. I don't know that it's going to be $600 a week unemployment. I would be surprised if that continues, to be honest with you. Okay, yeah, it's only 10 minutes. Hey, go to wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to put a couple links in the comments here for those. Yeah, the podcasts have their own page on the site. Oops. And but you can also go to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can just search for Black Oxygen, and it's only 10 minutes. Yeah, it's only 10 minutes. It's just me and Stephanie going over the news of the day. Get you caught up to speed first thing in the morning. Black Oxygen is Angela Russell, old friend of ours, interviewing people about just what it means to be black in Wisconsin and how do you breathe, how do you survive, how do you thrive when you're in such a small minority, but proud of your culture and your heritage. So, thank you very much for your time. I hope you like this new little setup we have here. We'll try it some more later. I might get my I might take my old picture off that intro thing. That was a little bit weird, but okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you tomorrow.